Angela Rayner and ITV's Lorraine Kelly are at the centre of a storm that's spiralling out of control. Tuesday morning's interview, meant to showcase Labour's Deputy PM taking accountability, has instead erupted into a fury of public backlash. Lorraine's so-called softball questions left viewers livid, with accusations of blatant favouritism flooding social media. Not a single mention of Labour's controversial housing targets, the winter fuel allowance cuts, or the inheritance tax measures. This wasn't an interview, it was a PR stunt.
So I tried to speak. There was one cabinet minister who didn't want to speak to me today, Angela Rayner. Here's what happened. Angela Rayner, for GB News, Angela Rayner, can I ask you one question? Angela Rayner, we told GB News.
With the whole of
young Labour.
Right. Children get a picture, please.
Thank you so much.
Angela, just one for GB News, one question. Sadly, Angela Rayner not wanting to talk to GB News there. We're trying to ask questions about her plan for change, but sadly, other broadcasters came first. There we are, Angela Rayner. She had other things to do, and no problem here. Always keen to talk to her whenever she can come on GB News.
As you can see, she was too afraid to speak to GB News. I wonder why. ITV viewers had expected a grilling, a deep dive into Labour's promises and missteps, particularly after Angela Rayner's disastrous Sky News appearance days earlier. Instead, Lorraine opened with a disarmingly casual question, asking Rayner what she would put on her report card. Rayner leaned into the opportunity to play up Labour's so-called successes, listing legislation aimed at building 1.5 million homes and tackling homelessness. But these answers, while polished, left gaping holes. There was no clarity on how Labour plans to fund these projects or tackle the public's growing scepticism about whether the ambitious targets are realistic. Lorraine's follow-up was equally frustrating to viewers. She touched briefly on public disappointment with Labour, but quickly pivoted to an easier question. What's been the hardest thing for you coming into power? Rayner's answer, about the slow-moving nature of government and her frustration at the pace of change, added little substance. The tone of the interview softened even further when Lorraine shifted the focus to Rayner's personal challenges as a woman in politics. Rayner acknowledged the scrutiny she faces and her need to prove herself, especially as a working-class woman. While the topic is undoubtedly significant, viewers were left wondering why the interviewer seemed more interested in personal anecdotes than the policies impacting millions. Online, the reaction was brutal. On X, formerly Twitter, one viewer fumed, "No mention of the winter fuel allowance cuts or the inheritance tax chaos. This wasn't journalism, it was propaganda." Another wrote, "Angela Rayner has found her safe space with Lorraine Kelly. No hard questions, no accountability, just fluff." The frustration wasn't just aimed at Rayner. ITV itself became a target, with critics accusing the network of sacrificing journalistic integrity for political access. The hashtag #Lorraine Softball started trending, with many pointing out how the interview avoided Labour's most contentious issues. To make matters worse, Lorraine brought up Rayner's viral Ibiza video. Viewers had already criticised the clip when it first surfaced, accusing the Deputy PM of being tone-deaf while discussing housing crises and cost-of-living struggles. Yet Lorraine framed the incident as a light-hearted moment, allowing Rayner to brush it off as letting her hair down. For many, this only highlighted the interview's lack of seriousness. Labour's housing strategy remains a particularly sore point for Rayner. The ambitious promise to build 1.5 million homes has been met with widespread scepticism, not least because of Rayner's inability to provide clear details about funding or timelines during previous interviews. Yet Lorraine didn't even touch on this critical issue. Instead, she allowed Rayner to make sweeping statements about her determination to achieve the target, even as critics have pointed out the logistical and financial hurdles that make it unlikely. Meanwhile, anger over the winter fuel allowance cuts continues to grow. Pensioners, many of whom are already struggling with high heating bills and food costs, feel betrayed by Labour's decision to scrap the benefit for millions. Farmers, too, are up in arms over Labour's proposed inheritance tax changes, which many say could decimate family-run operations. These issues weren't just ignored, they were completely absent from the conversation. The timing couldn't be worse for Labour. Just days earlier, Birmingham City Council announced a historic settlement over equal pay claims, exposing years of financial mismanagement and pushing the council into effective bankruptcy. Labour, which controls the council, has faced intense scrutiny over its handling of the crisis, with critics accusing the party of neglecting core responsibilities. Yet, once again, Lorraine's interview failed to bring up these pressing concerns. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, wasted no time seizing on the controversy. Speaking to reporters, he mocked the interview as a glorified chat show segment and accused Labour of being unprepared to handle the challenges of governing. Farage has been gaining momentum in recent weeks, buoyed by defections from the Conservatives and growing disillusionment with Labour. His comments only added fuel to the fire, with many pointing out that Lorraine's interview had done little to dispel doubts about Labour's competency. Adding to the intrigue, Rayner's relationship with GB News remains frosty. Clips of her dodging questions from the outlet during Labour's government reset have gone viral, with many accusing her of avoiding tough scrutiny altogether. Critics argue that Lorraine's interview only reinforced this perception, giving Rayner an easy platform to sidestep accountability. As the backlash continues, ITV is facing serious questions about its role in the scandal. Media analysts have pointed out that the network has a history of conducting safe interviews with high-profile figures, often at the expense of journalistic rigour. One commentator wrote, "ITV has positioned itself as the friendly face of British politics, but in doing so, it risks alienating viewers who want real answers, not soft-focus profiles." For Labour, the stakes couldn't be higher. The party's re-election has brought a wave of scrutiny, and with public dissatisfaction growing, interviews like this one are critical opportunities to rebuild trust. But if Tuesday's debacle is anything to go by, Labour may struggle to convince voters that it's ready to tackle the country's most pressing issues. Angela Rayner's team has yet to comment on the backlash, but insiders suggest the Deputy PM is frustrated by the narrative emerging from the interview. Sources close to Rayner argue that she was hoping to use the platform to highlight Labour's achievements, only to have the focus shift to personal stories and viral moments. Whether this was a deliberate strategy by ITV or a missed opportunity by Labour, one thing is clear: the public isn't buying it. As one viewer put it, "This wasn't journalism, this was a PR stunt, and we're tired of it." The scandal has reignited debates about the role of media in holding politicians accountable. Should broadcasters like ITV push harder, even at the risk of losing access to high-profile figures? Or does this kind of light-touch approach serve a purpose by humanising politicians and making them more relatable? For now, the answer seems obvious to viewers. They want answers, not anecdotes, and until Labour and ITV start delivering them, the backlash is unlikely to fade. If you want more updates on this story and other breaking scandals in UK politics, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and stay tuned, because the fallout from this interview is far from over.